Hello and welcome, everybody. It is Coach Action Jackson, and welcome to another edition of Client Success Stories. This time, I've got Jacob here, and welcome to the Gun Show. Jacob crushed the program. He lost 30 pounds, he cut 4% body fat, and he gained 5 pounds of muscle along the way. Incredible. Jacob, why don't you introduce yourself?
All right. So I'm Jacob McBride. My wife and I live in Plano, Texas. We've got 5 children, which keep us busy enough. I'm a practicing attorney. I work in-house now for an insurance company, which is a little bit of a lifestyle change for me, which has been awesome. We've lived in Texas now for 17 years this next week. So we've been here, born and raised in Utah, and settled in, added these 5 native Texans to our household, and now we're loving life and living the dream. So
I love it, Jacob. And the best part about that is that everybody always says, "Oh man, I've got kids, I can't get fit. Oh, I got responsibilities. I got a tough corporate job. I'm a busy guy." Obviously, you're an incredibly busy guy. You've got a lot of kids, you got a ton of responsibilities, and you've still managed to lose 30 pounds, cut 4% body fat, and of course, add on those 5 pounds of muscle. So, I mean, let's go back to where you were and tell me about like what was going on before you joined the program. Where were you at? What was your weight, your physical self like? What was your mental and emotional self like?
so I had fluctuated over the last several years with my weight, tried a lot of different things. Most recently, I'd lost about 3 or 4 years ago. I lost a bunch of weight doing a keto diet, which was great, but I found it wasn't sustainable for me. I bought a tonal machine a little over a year ago, and I was using it sometimes consistently, sometimes not. And over the course of the last couple of years, I've really regained back much, if not most, of the weight that I'd lost on prior diets. Found myself feeling a little bit lost on that end and wondering, this worked before. It doesn't seem to be working now, or I'm struggling to be consistent with it. It was kind of a realization that I don't really understand my nutrition, right? I'm following, these things that people have told me about, but I don't know that I was really paying attention to everything I was eating. I kind of, the tonal was great, but I don't think I really knew what I was doing or why I was choosing what programs or workouts I was doing and how that fit in necessarily with my goals. It was kind of at that point I had done Go Big or Go Home, or started Go Big or Go Home, and I'd posted about it. I felt like I'd found something that was getting me the type of workouts that I wanted and moving me forward. And I think it was at that point that you reached out to me and said, "Hey, glad that you enjoyed the program. Thank you for the support." And then we connected. And from there, it was kind of like a wake up that, I need more than to just kind of scrape by guessing what I'm supposed to be doing with nutrition and guessing what I'm supposed to be doing with my workouts. And it made a lot of sense. And we had discussions. And from there, it was an easy decision for me to, as you and I have talked about, to invest in myself, right? And to make the right choice, and my wife and I have talked about how much it's been worth every penny along the way. So that's kind of where I was. That's what I was experiencing, and just feeling maybe a little bit directionless at the time.
I totally get that. And I hear that from so many people that joined the program. And the keto thing is crazy. It drives me nuts because people think they're going to do keto. It's a short term band aid fix on a long term problem. It just doesn't work because the fact is that you're going to eat for the rest of your life. So, unless you plan on never having another carbohydrate forever, which, if that's the case, great, more power to you. Most people don't want to do that. They were going to want to have carbohydrates in the future. So, you can't simply try to do a strategy that you're not going to use long term in order to get to your goal. It just doesn't work, because what eventually happens is when you go back to eating quote unquote normal again, you gain the weight back. So I'm so glad that you realized that that wasn't going to be the long-term solution for you, and you decided to make a change. Now, what was the reason, the why, if you will, behind all of this? You obviously mentioned you have 5 kids. I'm sure that played into a bit, but get deep with me for a minute here. Let's go below the surface. And what was your driver? Because of course this wasn't easy. Of course, you're a busy guy, you have a lot of responsibilities, all this stuff. What drove you to want to achieve this?
So, a few things. First of all, you mentioned family. My family is my life. They're what I do everything for, right? And it was recognizing that a I wasn't setting the example that I need to for my kids as far as taking care of myself. There's some realization as you get to start to be my age, and I still don't feel like I'm old, but you start to realize, I started thinking, comparing my age now, remembering when my dad was my age, and it doesn't seem that long ago, and starting to realize, hey, time's moving faster, and I'm not doing anything about it, and I need to improve longevity for my family. One, I need to be around for them, right? And two, I need to be I need to be setting an example for them. So the family side of things and taking care of my health was one. The other thing was recognizing that life isn't fun when you have so many limitations on yourself, right? There is so much of the world to see and do and things that I want to experience, and recognizing that I'd allow my weight to get way up there. I mean, I was close to 270 when I started the program, and that was kind of a shocker to sit back and go, how did this happen? How did I let this go? And so, just wanting to participate in life again, engage in some of the activities I have when I was younger, and just make sure that for the long haul, I'm part of my family's life and part of my kids' life. So
I love that. And it's incredible because here, sitting here now with me and doing this interview and talking about the success you've had and the results, you are that inspiration, man. You are the example. You're setting it, you're doing it, you're taking action, and you are the change that you want to see. So I just want to quickly acknowledge you for that. It's incredible. I'm so freaking proud of you because I saw the example of my dad, and I hear what you're saying here because I was that little boy watching my dad work out and thinking, and we all do this when we're little kids. We think our parents are like, they're like gods to us. They're everything. And my dad was everything to me, and seeing him work out and be big and strong, I thought he was the strongest, he was Superman to me, and I wanted to grow up and be just like that. So I know you're doing that for your kids. And I just want to acknowledge you for that and say how grateful and thankful I am for that, because it makes a difference. You are making a difference, my friend. So thank you. Now, let's kind of continue on from there. So you totally understand as far as why you want to make this change. I don't want to spend too much time in the past, but how do you feel like it got to that point, right? You said you were at 270 and you were kind of feeling like you were more limited now in life. What was the slippery slope? Like, was it just pretending it wasn't happening? I'm just curious because I know there's somebody out there who's kind of going down that slope, and I want to know what those warning signs are, maybe that they can look out for, and also we can all look out for, so we don't kind of go down that path.
for me, it was really a lack of knowledge of what was really happening, right, with myself. With the keto diet, there was always, to get to that state where you're in ketosis and whatever else, it doesn't happen overnight. It may take a few days, it may take a week. And that's only if you're really on top of it and really sticking to it and doing well. And so what I'd find myself putting on a few pounds, maybe 5, 6 pounds or something like that, and saying, I need to, okay, I got to put a stop to this. And then I'd go in and I'd push for a couple weeks, and then I'd have a cheat day, and cheat day turned into cheat week, because in my, my mindset just wasn't there. It was like, well, I love these foods, and they are maybe a bit of a coping mechanism, right? You deal with stress, you deal with everything else, and you go to that instead of things you should be going to. And so then, I'd go up 5 or 6 pounds, and then I'd work hard for a few weeks, and I'd drop a pound or two, and then I would, relax, and it would go. So it was kind of this stair climbing thing back up to where I was, and never stopping to pause and say, hey, this isn't working. It's not sustainable for me. It was when I was way motivated a couple of years ago and stuck with it. but it's just not working. And to be honest, it kind of had turned into, well, as long as I'm not eating carbs, I can eat whatever I want. So even when I was keto, right, I probably way overdoing it on the caloric intake. So that's part of it as well, is just not being aware. But for many years I was in private practice. Moving in house has helped my mindset better and my mental health a little better. But private practice and a litigation practice is stressful, and using that as an out, or going to food as kind of a crutch, or even as a procrastination technique. If I'm dealing with something difficult at the time and not wanting to deal with it in the moment, standing up and going, and where would I go? I'd go open the fridge, or I'd go in the office. If I was in the office, I'd go down to the vending machine, and it was using that as kind of a crutch, not recognizing and acknowledging that what I was doing wasn't working. And it was kind of a wake up call to almost hit 270 again and go, oh, okay, wow, something needs to change.
Yeah, I completely understand, and I appreciate you being open and honest and vulnerable about that, because I know somebody's going to connect with that out there, and it's going to be helpful. So, what now are the coping mechanisms? How do you deal with stress now? Because I mean, you still have a lot of responsibilities. You still have, kids to raise. You still have all these things going on, and you're not getting any younger. And typically, for most people, stress is typically always just going in one direction, and that's higher. So, how are you able to deal with these things without going to food or overindulging?
Well, first of all, I wish I could say I was perfect in that, right? And I still have my moments where I'll go to food on occasion, right? But a few things have changed, and that is, the macro plan and the diet plan that I'm on, and the nutrition that I'm trying to follow now, allows for a little bit of that to begin with, which makes a difference, because when it's kind of an all or nothing keto diet, the second you go off, it extends out. So part of it is just having the mindset of, it's okay if on occasion I have something that I enjoy to eat, right? But the constant tracking, I think that's been a realization, is just monitoring everything that I'm eating, and I've gotten to where I actually, it's become easy to me, and I enjoy doing it, and I like seeing where I am. It was kind of a wake up as to how much, before I'd eat peanuts, and I was eating something, healthier, but I was probably having hundreds of calories in peanuts and not even realizing that's what I was doing. And now to stop and be like, oh, okay, an ounce or a half an ounce of peanuts is that, is that amount. And I was not eating that amount. I was eating a lot more than that. So it's kind of the wake up and realization of what I was doing to myself was part of it, right? To where I could just pause and recognize that that's not a good outlet for me. The other thing is, feeling the success of the workouts. For me, the victory each week was trying to outdo the prior week on on a given workout. So increasing time under tension and increasing volume. And for a while there, starting off slow on some of those workouts, taking longer rests to try and get through them. And so for a little while there, part of my focus was reducing time. But then once I got down to where my time was about how long the workout should be, I stopped worrying about that. And those kind of became my motivators and my outlets. And if I was stressed, I was like, well, I'm going to go into this workout and I'm going to nail it. And I've started to see that, right? To where getting into a workout routine is difficult because it's not easy. And we were talking about this earlier. There's no magic pill or wand that you're going to wave and have the workouts be easy. You have to put in the work. And early on, it's tough. And my cardiovascular health wasn't great. So the workouts that pushed me harder, that got my heart rate up, were, they would take me an hour, and I'd be like, man, this is a big chunk of my day with everything else going on. But I got to the point where there was like, I hate to miss my workouts now. It's an outlet for me, and I feel that. And if I'm dealing with stress, I can feel that, and I'm putting it into the moves. Today, before jump on this call, I went and did a workout, and um, I was feeling it with doing some bench press and every push up. Um, every rep that I was doing, I could feel that, and it was just pushing out that stress and pushing through. So, um, just the exercise and the workout has kind of become an outlet for me that wasn't before, because my heart and lungs are in better shape, my muscles are stronger. It's enjoyable. It's enjoyable to see yourself beat what you did before and to feel that strength. And that just sounds so weird. I remember reading a post on the Facebook group. Someone had said they love leg day, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? And the next day was leg day for me, and I said, you know what? Maybe this is just a mindset. This is a perspective thing, right? And so I went into it, and I'm gonna crush this workout. I'm gonna increase my volume. I'm gonna slow it down and increase my time under tension. And I was dead after that workout. And I was like, that was really cool, right? It's become this thing where it's become this awesome outlet for me instead of always going to food, right? So, and even adding some training in for triathlon and up in the morning. I used to hate mornings, but there's been something lately about being out on the trail and jogging or cycling or swimming or whatever I'm doing in the morning that is just so clearing of the mind and focusing for the day and getting me started. And those were all habits that were lost and gone because of the state that I was in. So it's fantastic.
Wow. Jacob, that might have been the greatest 5 to 6 minute rant that we've ever had in the history of client success stories, right? We're on like number 65 or 66 at this point, something like that, which is incredible in itself. But there was so many lessons that you just embedded into the last 5 minutes. I mean, I think I lost count at lesson 5, 6, or 7. So I'll try to recapture a few of them that you said, but that was incredible. I just want to say thank you for that. Go listen to that last 5 minutes again, because there are so many lessons, not only just health and fitness lessons, but real life lessons that you just embedded into that little rant you went on. So the first thing was not having an all or nothing mentality. And so many people think it's either all on or it's all off. And the reality is it can't be that way, because you're setting yourself up for failure. Your health and fitness for the rest of your life is not like 75 hard. It's not an all on or an all nothing thing. You have to be able to manage the ups and the downs and realize that some days are going to be good. Some days are not going to be so good. Some days you're going to have a great workout in PR, and some days you're going to be tired and you might have to skip your workout. So managing those ups and downs is going to be absolutely necessary. And you need to give yourself that freedom, especially when it comes to the diet, because if it's all or nothing when it comes to the diet, when it's off, it's going to be off bad and you're going to spiral, and it's going to take you a long time to dig out of that hole. So you got to be able to give yourself a little bit of grace and have a plan that allows flexibility, allows you to eat some of your favorite foods, and allows you to, of course, make progress, but not feel so restricted and shackled all the time as well. So that's the first thing you said. The next thing you said, which is focusing on small victories and letting those victories build, which is incredibly important. And so many people, they just think about the end result, the big goal that they wanted. If you only focused on just the 30 pounds and said, oh my God, I need to lose 30 pounds, I need to lose 30 pounds, you get lost, and you probably would have given up a long time ago. But by saying, okay, I want to lose 30 pounds, now let's chunk that down. And hey, I lost a half a pound this week. This is exciting. Or I lifted an extra 100 pounds today. Like, this is exciting. This is getting me towards my goal. That mindset of focusing on those daily wins and just stacking those wins and victories helps build your confidence and helps get you into momentum, which is ultimately what's going to carry you forward. So that was huge. You also talked a lot about, chunking down and breaking things down and just focusing on the next thing. You talked about leveraging outlets for stress. You talked about mindset, shifting your mindset from leg day sucks to, well, what if I didn't think leg day sucked? What if I embraced it maybe and I attacked it today? You also talked about leveraging multiple forms of progressive overload, and people only focus on one, which is increasing weight. But you just talked about density, maybe doing things a little faster. And the last thing you talked about, if I'm getting all of them, you talked about, really like leveraging this activation energy at first, right? It's going to be really difficult at first, just embracing the suck to a degree, right? Like they say in the military, embrace the suck. Know that it's going to be hard at first, but here's the thing, you're going to get stronger. And that's an important distinction versus it's going to get easier. It doesn't get easier, you get stronger. And that's such an incredibly important distinction. As you got stronger, you said it, I'm stronger. This is now an outlet for me. It feels so much better. You got to get over that hump and just embrace the suck, get through it, and get to the other side where the pasture is going to be a little brighter and a little greener. And you've done it. So the question I really want to ask as a follow-up before we get into some of the other things is, how did you embrace the suck? How did you push and continue to put one foot in front of the other in those early days when your cardiovascular health wasn't good, when your strength wasn't where it is today? How are you able to do that and continue to get to the other side? Because a lot of people, they sink in the river on the way.
So for me, community was important. Your online community is great. I'll just shout out that it feels like a family. Everyone's supporting one another, lifting one another. So that's part of it. And being involved in that, you told me early on, posting and being involved and commenting is a good sign that you're engaged in part of it. So that's just a shout out to that. Accountability was a big thing for me. I didn't want to let you down, and not at first it was I didn't want to let Jackson down. I'm going to do these workouts. I'm going to get all the workouts in. And then it got to the point where I was like, well, I don't want to let myself down. Right. And two, like you mentioned, sometimes you're going to have days that aren't as great as others. And sometimes you're not going to surpass the volume, or you're not going to surpass. And I had a couple of those throughout. But I remember an early conversation. I think it was probably a check-in that we had right after phase one. And I was worried that I was plateauing, right? Because, because my weight hadn't gone down much, right? And we were talking, and you were actually laughing. You were like, you have not plateaued. And you're kind of laughing at the idea of plateauing. And then you went into the detail of like, what does success look like, right? It's not just what the numbers on the scale. So that was a huge wake up for me in recognizing that, you know what, me getting out every day and getting my workouts in and tracking what I'm eating and everything else, every one of those is victory, right? Every one of those is an accomplishment that keeps me moving in the right direction. It's the cumulative effect of marginal gains, right? And you've mentioned that book before, and I love that one as well. And so it was kind of this mindset of recognizing what is victory and what am I doing right. And so that accountability was an important piece to me, because before that, my wife's like, I don't want you to have to be accountable to me, because sometimes you're nice about it and sometimes you're not, right? So starting out that, and then starting to recognize these victories and what was progress and what it meant for me, that became a motivating factor to just continue to push through, to where I started to become a little bit more just accountable to myself. I'm doing this for me and going forward. So I think that mindset shift, and that recognizing that it's not all about the scale. Because if I was just focusing on the scale, there were a few weeks there where I could have really gotten discouraged with myself, right? But saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm improving in out of the 10 areas I'm trying to improve in, I made gains in 9 of them, and just because the scale didn't go down this week doesn't mean I'm not progressing and I'm not improving. And that was a big, huge mindset shift that kept me pushing through the suck. So.
Wow, I love that. You did such a great job of communicating that and summing it up. And me laughing at you is funny, but you're right. You weren't plateauing yet, and there was so much still that you were improving on. And it's really comes down to perspective. I talked about this in a Mindset Monday that I did in our group just a few minutes ago before we jumped on. And I get this from The Obstacle is the Way, which is this book that sits here on my desk because it's such a great book by Ryan Holiday. And the first step to overcoming any real problem or obstacle is your perception of the problem. And when you're looking at it, it's like, oh my God, the scale's not moving. And the perception is like, I'm failing, I'm a failure, I suck, this isn't working, all that hard work's for nothing. And while that's one perception, a more solution oriented and a better perception is like, hey, what are maybe some areas that I am improving in? What is working here? Because you're going to see what you focus on and what you look for. And if you look for the problems and you just look for the thing that's not working, you're going to see it and it's going to be the scale. But then when you take a step back, you don't let fear overwhelm you and you say, let me just assess the playing field here. Let me detach emotionally a little bit, get some psychological distance. Let me look at the playing field. What's happening here? It's almost like sending a drone up, right? And being able to look at the battlefield or see the forest through the trees. You're in the forest, you can't see anything. You throw the drone up and all of a sudden you go, oh, wow, I see. I just have to go north another mile and I'll be out of the forest. And then we're looking and we're saying, oh, wait, waist measurement's going down. Strength is getting better. Cardiovascular health is improving. Energy is improving. Strength's improving. Hey, I bet you're probably adding on some muscle too here in the process. Like that's probably offsetting the scale. And you did gain 5 pounds of muscle in the program. So while you lost that 30 pounds, we have to account for the fact that you added some muscle as well. And when you really take an assessment of everything that's happening, and of course, your progress photos were good, it's like, wow, there's so much good here. There's so much to focus on. Let me keep doing that and let me not, focus on the one thing that's not working. There's a saying in race car driving, if you look at the wall, you're going to go into it. Well, let me look at my goal. Let me look at what's happening, what's working. Let me reinforce that and just keep moving one step in front of the other. And the other thing there is leading versus lagging indicators. Lagging indicators, weight, progress photos, etc. Leading indicators is focusing on the daily habits, the daily to-dos, the rituals, if you will, that are going to get you to your outcome. It's kind of like in sales, they talk about, okay, I want to hit a certain number or I have a quota that I want to fill. Well, the best way of getting that is just checking off one call after the next, and knowing if you do X number of calls, you're going to close a certain amount of money. In this business, I know what my closing percentage is on phone calls. I know how many calls I have to do, how many messages we have to send, what we have to do in order to hit certain numbers. And when you work backward from that, it's like, okay, if I just do the things that I need to do, I track my food, I do my workouts, I get my rest, my recovery, all that stuff, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. So I love that you were able to shift that focus, change your perception, because that's the first step to really overcoming obstacles, which was fantastic. Now, we talked a little bit about it, the mindset stuff. And when I'm chatting to people on the phone and I talk about the mindset aspect of the program, some people are like, oh my gosh, I really need that. But I'd say a majority of the people think it's all about just workouts and diet. And they're like, if I just get the diet, if I just get the workouts, that's all I need, I'm going to crush it. And for the first 5 years of my business, from 2013 roughly to 2017, all I did was workouts and diet. I didn't focus on any mindset stuff. From 2017 on, I just continually increased the level of stuff on mindset in the program until now, which a lot of it is mindset based. How would you say mindset played a role in your results, in your outcome? And just kind of walk me through how your mindset has evolved from start to where you're at today.
I recall one of our early, it was probably chatting, maybe Facebook chat or something like that. I said something about a goal, and there was something in my language about, well, I'd like to, but I don't know if that's achievable. And I'd like to get down under 200 pounds. And you said, why isn't that achievable? And I was like, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know why I feel that way, other than last time I tried, I lost a bunch of weight and I could not get below 220. And so my mindset was, well, that's, when I was working my tail off, that's what I could do. And so I realized I'd kind of set this limit on myself in my mind. So knowing, kind of removing those limitations on yourself within reason, right? I'm not going to try and do something that's unreasonable or set goals that are unreasonable. But that was a part of it, right? First of all, let's lift off this limitation I've placed on myself or my abilities, and recognize that I have these areas of I've got these blind spots in my nutrition and my workout and my habits, that if I can overcome those and gain some knowledge and understanding, then what is to stop me from continuing to move forward until I hit that goal? So lifting that up.
What you said was sort of limiting these limiting beliefs. And you're 100% right. We're not saying, Jacob, you're going to be Mr. Olympia, right? We're not going to that level of extreme. We're just saying, why is it impossible to get to 200 or maybe even below? And most people set their sights and really sell themselves so way further short than they possibly could imagine. They have so much more potential in so many different areas. It's kind of like the David Goggins 40% rule, right? He says, when you think you've given your best effort, you're really only 40% there. And, and it's pretty incredible because more often than not, it's true. Wherever we think our limit is, like I remember going back, I thought to myself, if I could make six figures and just replace my income as a personal trainer and have like 20 clients that I train in person, oh my gosh, like this is going to be huge. I can't even imagine doing that. That's such a big goal. And for the time, for me, that was such a stretch goal, going from nothing, 0 clients to something like that. And it was like, whoa. And then it was like, wait, actually, am I selling myself short? I could probably do a lot more than that. And now here I am, right, with a much bigger online business and in doing far bigger in things that I ever could have imagined. Of course, it was incremental gains, but also it was like, yeah, like maybe I can do more. And again, we're not saying you're going to be Mr. Olympia, but it's like, yeah, why not? And also the words that you use, and a lot of people kind of really, they don't pay attention to their language. They don't pay attention to what they say. We had a client in our group today that messaged me directly, and he said in his message, and I'm sure you could appreciate that, he said, I don't know if I have the genetics to get the 6-pack abs like you have, but, and then went on to say something, and I didn't answer his question. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I said, what? Go back to what you just said. Why are you limiting yourself? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, you said, I don't think I have the genetics to get to this point. And it's like, yeah, again, maybe you don't have the genetics to get to Mr. Olympia or be in Men's Health, but like, why sell yourself so short? Why start out with the short end of the stick? Might as well start from a place of abundance and growth and positivity of like, hey, maybe I can do this. At least open the door for the potential, the possibility. Then pursue it, and then you could always reevaluate along the way. And maybe you get to 210 and you're happy there. Or maybe you get to 190, right? But the only way to find out is to be open to the possibility and put one foot in front of the other and keep working and keep moving towards the goal. And of course, not blindly, but pivoting and adjusting along the way and making sure your strategy is sound. And obviously, that's exactly what we're doing. So that's the one thing I definitely wanted to comment on from a mindset perspective. And it's been incredible watching your journey because your mindset has shifted so much. Are there any other insights or breakthroughs from a mindset perspective you want to share before we kind of move on?
Yeah, just two briefly. One was, when I tried keto dieting before, I would go and I would have these periods where I'd lose a bunch of weight in a short period of time. And then I'd level out for a little while, and then I would drop a bunch of weight. And so that was a mindset shift and perspective shift as well. With this one is I got to the point, and I think I told you in a message once, I don't want to be losing more than 2 pounds in a week or 1.5 or 2 pounds in a week. I'm like, that is, to me, I'm understanding that is the sustainable, long-term, moving at the right rate sort of a thing. So being okay with a couple pounds at a time, and even being okay with a week where I didn't lose weight, that was a huge mindset shift for me. Not getting down on myself for limiting my myopic view of the scale being that primary metric, right? The other thing that I would say is my resilience as it relates to nutrition, right? I used to get really down on myself if I'd have a bad day or a bad week, and it was hard for me to recover and jump back in. But time after time after time on the program, if I'd have a night where I wasn't perfect or I wasn't it didn't matter. The next morning, I was back at it 100%. Because I started to gain that confidence in myself and have that mindset shift that, you know what? Okay, it's okay. It's okay that I had a bad night. That doesn't matter. What matters is that I pick myself back up again and move forward. And so not getting down on myself for those moments, and recognizing that's counterproductive to torpedo my progress because I had one night where I wasn't perfect, right? So those two additional mindset thoughts were big things for me.
Wow. Jacob, I'm getting emotional here listening to you because the confidence that's oozing out of you and the trust I hear in yourself coming through your voice, and to hear you say, I might have fallen down, but the next day I got right back up, and without any decrease in enthusiasm, I went 100% and attacked it again. Wow, is that inspiring? Because that's so different from what you used to do, but also so many people out there are in this exact same situation where they're like, okay, I'm all in, I'm going to do this. And then they screw up, they fall, they falter, and then they beat themselves up, they shame themselves. Their self talk is so negative and it just pulls them down, and it actually prevents them from moving forward and getting to the outcome and the goal that they want. So to hear you complete 180, say, man, I fell down many times. This wasn't easy. It was difficult. I tried, and I had a day that wasn't perfect, but it's okay because I'm going to attack it again tomorrow. And I know I'm going to learn a lesson from this, and I'm going to improve, and I'm going to keep moving forward. And that's the only way that you ultimately succeed. So I don't want to steal too much more of your time here. I just want to take this moment to acknowledge you, Jacob. You've done an incredible job. I'm so proud of you. I'm so inspired by you. And I know so many other people are, not just in our community, right? Not just people who are listening or watching this interview, but your friends, your family, coworkers, your neighbors, right? There, anybody that you're connected to, I guarantee has been inspired and impacted in a positive way by this journey that you've gone on. Your journey, it matters so much more than you think, I'm sure. And again, I'm just really inspired by you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so freaking proud of you. And I love just the way you're speaking, the way you're talking to me, just your body language, the confidence, everything is so impressive. So thank you for putting in the hard work. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for investing in yourself. And thank you for kicking so much ass in this program, my man.
Thank you. Thank you.
And any last things that you want to share before we wrap things up?
Just that you're worth it. Whoever you are watching, participating, you're worth it. You're worth the investment in yourself. And this program is definitely worth it. Worth every penny. Great investment in myself and in my future and in everything. So you're worth it. Go forward, do it, and enjoy the results.
Well said, my friend. Thank you again so much for your time. Jacob, down 30 pounds, 4% body fat, 5 pounds of muscle. I appreciate you. And remember, people out there, take action. That's the difference between dreaming and succeeding.